This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
First of all, they all play defense. They're all strong. Maybe Gordo's not the biggest guy out on the ice, but he plays like he is. And they're all committed to play the right way. And so when you have three guys like that, it doesn't matter who they play against. They'll have success. And maybe the success is they're keeping some high-power lines off the score sheet. Maybe the success is like tonight, where they did that and scored goals. So their commitment to play the right way has been big for us. And I think it's not a coincidence that we're winning now, and Gergens is back in the lineup.
That's right. Lightning looking to continue their good play, munch some points tonight. Should be a good one against Dallas. We've got a lot to discuss here on the show as we are getting you set for the game tonight. But I want to let everybody know, partner, before we get into it, it's time to enjoy some Reef Rum. Smooth, versatile, now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule. Taste why fans are switching. Reef Rum, they are a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Reef Rum by name. Go Bolts. Enjoy responsibly.
That was quite the enthusiastic read, my friend.
It was. Yeah, have you stayed warm today? It's chilly. You know how Floridians...
Yes. I think I'm no meteorologist, but I think this is the chilliest morning. I took the dogs out when I got up. It was as chilly as it's been since last winter, basically. That's what it felt like to me. My unscientific way of determining. And then I came to the rink where it's very chilly in the stands. But I watched the Lightning's morning skate and went into the slightly warmer locker room. And now in the very comfortably warm Lightning Audio Network studios.
Yes, that's very warm in there. Phil will be cold tonight, so we'll make sure. I don't know if we can bring maybe like a blanket or something, Steve. I know we have like his pen that he uses, but maybe we need to start bringing that, because I told my wife today, I said, this is going to be a cold night, I bet.
Your ancestors from Pittsburgh would be ashamed
disappointed
to hear you talk that way.
Oh, I know. They're just, I'm so soft at this point.
Brendan Burke, who's calling the game for TNT, is going to be joining us. And when I saw him and Darren Pang and Jackie Redmond, they're doing the broadcast tonight, I said, hey, welcome to relatively chilly Florida. This is really the first morning we've had like this. And Brendan said, it still feels warm to me. So we have come a long way. You and I have come a long way from our northern roots.
For sure.
Spend enough time in Florida, you're like, ooh, it's so chilly.
It's exactly it. So, whatever. We hope the Lightning's momentum and good play warms things up. Now, out of the gate, because you had a chance to look at, the skate, do we have anything to inform our audience right now?
11-7 for the Lightning.
Yeah.
Radish is back in. Congratulations again to Darren and his family on the birth of their son, Bo. And Douglas is out. And Finley is out. So the scratches are Finley, Douglas, and Crozier. Crozier was in a regular jersey today at the skate. I don't know if the Lightning have actually taken him off IR yet, but he looks very close, and Coop confirmed that. And I saw Crozier in the locker room and, said hello, and he's like, yeah, I'm feeling a lot better. I mean, it was scary when you see that ankle roll like it did. And the fact that he is basically on the cusp of returning is very good news, because these ankle injuries can be long-term sometimes.
Sometimes when you hear not the initial diagnosis, but if you think high ankle sprain, so many. I mean, it is so commonplace for people, and especially ones who played at that level, to say you might as well just have a break at that point, because
that's
high
not
ankle sprains
great either.
No, but high ankle sprains are just really tough to come back. But that wasn't.
And I mean, that's definitely true in hockey. I think it's true in other sports too. Like you hear football players, they get the high ankle sprain. It's tough. It's really, really difficult. I've never had one myself. Not that if I had one, it would affect my ability to do what I do, but certainly I've been around the sport long enough to know that those are three dreaded words: high ankle sprain, and it does appear that Crozier avoided that. I think we knew that because some people were like, he's going to be, as one fan said, he's going to be out as long as Moser was out last year. And I'm like, we've got no indication that that's going to be the case, and it's not the case. But he's not playing tonight. So, look, the Lightning won 3 in a row. They've had some lineup variation with the Radish situation. So the first win, Radish was not in, Douglas was. The second win, the Lightning went 11-7. They may have gone 11-7 Tuesday in Nashville, if not for the fact that Radish wasn't with the team because they welcomed their son. So Radish is back in. But in terms of the lines have basically stayed the same. So Hagel and Cirelli will be the forward line with just 2 forwards. The other 3 lines, Point, Kucherov, Gensel, James, Bjorkstrand, Gonsalves, and the line that John Cooper was talking about that had such an impactful game against the Predators, but has really been impactful overall since they've been together, which coincided with Gergensen's return to the lineup. Gergensen's, Gord, and Pontus Holmberg. And then your 7D, Hedman, Moser, McDonough, Chernak, Destu, Lilleberg with Radish as the 7th defenseman. So they'll work that rotation. I do want to mention before Brendan Burke gets here, I had a chance to talk to a couple of the Lightning players in the room and address some things that we've wondered on the show or fans have asked. So Brian Engblom and I were both chatting with Lilleberg, and I joined the conversation later. So when I asked the question, they both laughed and said, Brian already asked this. But I asked if Lilleberg had ever played the right side. And he's like, I have in Norway. But, I mean, that's been a few years. He's like, I really like playing the right side. So he said the hardest thing as a lefty on the right side is a rim in the offensive zone. So the puck is coming around the boards, and you have to stop it on your backhand. That, he said, is the trick. And Brian, as a player himself, a lefty, he played the right side a lot. He's like, that is very difficult. But the other parts of the game, Lilleberg said it wasn't too much of a problem for him. And as I have said, since I've seen him playing the right side with Destu, I think he's acclimated quite well. The next guy I talked to was James. And among other things, I asked if he had played the wing. And it's like, center's your natural position. It looks like you're very comfortable at center. He's like, center is my natural position. I am very comfortable at center. He's like, I played the wing a little bit in the World Juniors, but I have no problem playing the wing, which kind of goes to what we were talking about yesterday, which is you're in the NHL. They ask you to play wing, you're going to play wing. He's like, I have no problem playing with Hagel and Cirelli, which, he took a shift or two with them since he's been up when they've been a unit of 2, right? And they've had a third guy rotate in. And then the last guy that I asked this question of was Destu, who joined me post-game. And he said, I just want to confirm that I got this right. I said, I'm not asking you to brag, but I'm like, top defenseman in the Swedish Hockey League. He's like, yep. Top defenseman in the Finnish League. Yep. Top defenseman in the ECHL. Yep. And I said, were you named top defenseman? Did you get an award in junior hockey? He's like, yeah, top defenseman. So
that's great. I was going to say, right?
Darren Pang was there. He's like, hey, well, all that's left is the Norris Trophy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, he has won the top defenseman award in 4 different leagues. I said, did you get the award your first or second year in Finland? He's like, the second year. So after the second year in Finland, he moved to the Swedish Hockey League and got that award last year. So for a guy who was undrafted and couldn't really find a foothold in North America playing professional hockey, he couldn't break into the AHL, essentially. I mean, he was named top defenseman in the ECHL. He played in Utah, actually. They had an ECHL team. So assuming he's still with the Lightning after this game tonight, which I think he will be pretty cool for him probably to go back to Utah where the Lightning play on Sunday. Having said all of that, he couldn't break into the AHL regularly. Played a little bit in Grand Rapids. That was it. So he's like, I'm going to Europe. And he's done nothing but, just pick up hardware everywhere he's gone.
You wonder why that happened. There are various reasons, but like what happened that he just couldn't get a sniff? I mean, forget about like sticking in the A, like a really like a sniff or try. I mean, to me, was it just Look, scouts make mistakes, and maybe that was one they just all overlooked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some players who win the top defenseman award in junior hockey, and it would have been for the Q. He played in Rimouski. I don't think he was. He made it seem like it was for his league, not for the entire Canadian Hockey League. I don't even know if they have that as an award. But Sergachev and Radish both also won the award in the OHL in back-to-back years. So Destu won it in the Q. And sometimes those players produce a lot of offense. They get the award, but teams at the next level may be a little hesitant because their game is too one-way, right? I mean, that is the best explanation I can give. He said that he did need to develop his two-way game. But you follow that up with if you're the top defenseman even in the ECHL, you'd think there was an AHL team out there, even if he doesn't have an NHL contract. Like, for example, Syracuse has some players who are on AHL deals. You would think that, some team would have taken a flyer on him. Then he went to Europe, and look, he won the award in back-to-back years in Finland and Sweden, and then the Lightning signed him. So, I mean, it took the second year of doing that well, and that is at a different level. I mean, the Swedish Hockey League is a better league than the ECHL. It just is, objectively. Sure. Yeah. So for him to have picked up those European awards, maybe that was kind of what pushed him over the top. But then, he comes here and does well in camp, does well in the preseason, does well in Syracuse, gets called up, and he's done well at the NHL level. As we said on yesterday's show, this guy looks like an NHL defenseman.
And it really
clearly
seems
he's got the shot, right?
And it sounds like he is somebody, too, that based off of the progress he makes from year 1 to year 2, he's a smart player, understands his weaknesses, and is going to improve. So, look, if he sticks with this club all year, can you imagine potentially what he would look like the following year? Because it seems like everywhere he's been, sometimes that next jump has allowed him in that second year to be the defenseman he's become. He can skate, which is you really need to have that in today's NHL because of the way the game is, and he does have offensive instincts. I'm excited to see more of that partner because I don't think we have as much for various reasons, and I think that part is going to be, pretty cool to see. So, good test, I think, tonight. I have always looked at Dallas. They've got a good mix of young and veteran players. They've always been one of those teams out west where you've had to kind of circle, like the Lightning, I think, in the East. Do they have a chance to compete for a cup? Not win it all the time.
Yeah.
Do they have a chance to compete? And I feel like they do.
This iteration does.
Yeah.
They made the final against the Lightning in the bubble. That team probably, and look, they won their series, so I'm not saying this to disrespect them in any way, but that team at that time maybe outkicked their coverage a little bit because the next year they kind of squeaked in. It wasn't the next year. The next year they missed the playoffs. That was the 2021 season. The year after, when a lot of their current guys are kind of making their way to the NHL, they squeaked in to the wild card and needed an outstanding series from Ottinger. They forced Calgary to a 7th game. That was when Calgary had the terrific line of Elias Lindholm, Matthew Tkachuk, and Johnny Gaudreau, rest of the soul. And they were a top team in the league. Dallas squeaked into the playoffs, got Calgary, lost in the first round. After that, I think they've moved up to the big boys. So, what is it now, 3-4 years? They have certainly been in the mix. And they have a great core. They do. They really don't have a lot of weaknesses at what we would say are the key positions. Like they've got great forwards and top end guys. Mm-hmm. They have an outstanding D-core. Not only do they have Miro Heiskanen, they have Thomas Harley. Thomas Harley is on his way to becoming one of the top defensemen in the NHL. I think he opened some eyes last year at the Four Nations. He slotted in for 2 games. And, I mean, he scored 31 goals in the last 2 years. I think he has 1 goal this year.
He just signed a big contract, didn't he?
He just signed, They know. They have a terrific player, and then they have Ottinger in net. So they've gotten off to a good start. They're 6-3-1, so they have hit their playoff pace. 13 points through their first 10 games. Their 3 regulation losses all came in a row, which is kind of interesting. They started okay, and then they lost the 3 in regulation, and they've rebounded. And they, like the Lightning, I think, bring a 3-game winning streak into the game tonight. What's weird about their stats, and I'm curious if the stats do not really reflect accurately how they've, in fact, played. Because their record is good, and I'm looking at the games that they've played. I mean, the games they lost were generally close. They lost a couple of games 5-4.
Yeah.
So last year's Dallas team, very similar to the Lightning in the regular season in terms of the key metrics that we talked about. Like the Lightning were a top 5 team in the main categories: goals for per game, goals against per game, 5-on-5 ratio, power play, penalty kill. They were 6th in penalty kill, top 5 in the others. Dallas was right there. Dallas was maybe not quite as high as the Lightning in some categories, and they dipped a little bit lower in some others. They might have been like 6th or 7th in some of those categories, but their goals for per game, excellent. Goals against per game, excellent. 5-on-5 ratio, outstanding. Penalty kill was terrific. Power play was Power play was middle of the pack. So they make the coaching change, and they bring in Glenn Gulutzan, who for the last several years was behind the bench in Edmonton. He was an assistant coach in Edmonton. I don't know if Gulutzan was responsible for the power play, but based on reading the Dallas notes, from what I can gather, it sounds like he had a lot to do with Edmonton's power play, which is one of the best power plays in the NHL. Clearly, they have a lot of weapons there, but you have to have a coach who can utilize those weapons well. And so Gulutzan, as the head coach, certainly, if he ran Edmonton's power play, he knows what a good power play looks like. So this year, Dallas's numbers, those metrics that I was talking about, all of them are kind of middling, except the power play. The power play is up over 31%, but their goals for per game is actually lower than the Lightning's.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say actually, but I mean, the Lightning, they haven't exactly been like tearing up the score sheet so far this year. Their goals against per game is right where the Lightning's is at, and we would agree. The Lightning have had a kind of a tough start to the year. They don't have the same record that Dallas has. Dallas's penalty kill, 71% coming in. And they are worse than the Lightning in 5-on-5 ratio. So these numbers, I'm kind of looking at them and like, if you just showed me these numbers, I would be surprised that the team was 6-3-1. But that's where they are, and it's beyond dispute that they have very, very good players. Rantanen is a stud. Heiskanen is a stud. Harley is a stud. Jason Robertson, tremendous player. Wyatt Johnston has evolved into, I mean, he's a
really good
first-round pick.
Right, really good player.
Yeah, he's popping in 30-plus goals every year. So...
And Rupe Hintz, right?
Rupe Hintz has been injured the last 2 games, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play tonight. But yes, he is also
He's a dynamic player.
Very dynamic player. Duchesne also is hurt. He has really helped them. He took a check in a game against St. Louis maybe about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. He's only played 4 games so far, so I guess it was a little bit longer than that. So Vasilevsky tends to play very well against the Stars. You look at Vasi's numbers and you look at the Lightning's team numbers against the Stars going back probably the last 4 or 5 years. They are outstanding.
Yeah.
And it's made even more outstanding when you factor in there was one game a couple of years ago where the Lightning gave up 8 goals in a loss at Dallas. So that one game would have adversely affected the Lightning's other numbers quite a bit, and the numbers are still terrific. I think Vasi has 6 career shutouts. I can say it now because we're hours before the game. I won't say it during the game to jinx it. But, Vasi is right. It was in the notes. Like, Vasi has done very, very well against the Dallas Stars, except for that one game where, they lit up the Lightning. But then they met like 3 days later in Tampa, and the Lightning won 4-0 against Dallas. So that was one of the rebound games.
One of the old guards, Sagan, playing in his 1,000th career game
congratulations
tonight. That's pretty
to
cool.
him.
Pretty cool.
Sagan entered the NHL as an 18-year-old playing with the Bruins. He was the 2nd overall pick. Played against the Lightning in the 2011 playoffs as a rookie, and then was moved from Boston to Dallas, I think in 2013. He's been in Dallas ever since. He's been very durable, except when he hasn't been. So 2 of his years, he had a lot of injury problems. The 1 year that the Lightning and Stars were in the same conference, the 2021 season, I think Sagan only played 1 game. And he was recovering from the final the year before. He had some injury that he was playing with through the playoffs, and it affected him the next year. So he basically missed a season. I know that the league only played, 56 games that year, but he missed that. And then last year he had an injury. He only played 20 games. He was back for the playoffs. So he would have gotten to 1,000 games sooner if not for those 2 years. But he also started as an 18-year-old. So congratulations to him. And we'll have the Kucherov ceremony tonight as well for 1,000 points.
And then, of course, Adam Erne coming back.
Adam Erne, yes.
He's on a fourth
Spent
line.
the last couple of years basically in the minors, exclusively in the minors. So good for him that he has an opportunity. I was looking at Dallas's rosters. They have a couple of guys that, and maybe it's because they have some injuries like Duchesne, Hintz more recently. They have a player with a very interesting last name. It's pronounced Ritzkovian. Justin Ritzkovian played at Northeastern. He was the rookie of the year in the AHL last year. Texas Stars got to the conference final. They got pretty deep in the playoffs, and maybe it was the round before the conference finals. But he had 9 goals last year in the playoffs. He is up, and he may be in tonight. And then they have Erne, obviously, up from the minors.
Ernie's been, we talked about younger players and relatively high draft pick, right? I think he was 33rd overall pick when he was selected a few years ago. Yeah. So, he wasn't a top 10, but, obviously there was a lot of interest in what he could become. I think there's been 1 year he's had double-digit goals, and that was with the Red Wings when he had an opportunity to play there. Remember, he got bopped pretty good by Barclay Goodrow. You remember that fight?
I do, when he was with Detroit.
And he got bopped really good. Probably went beyond his weight class there. But we talk about younger players and trying to find their role. And maybe in the minor leagues, Erne, you could have made a case was a top 6 forward. But when he came up to Tampa Bay, maybe he got a couple of looks here and there. But that was somebody that probably had to reinvent himself a little bit and say, if I'm going to stick in the NHL, I've got to figure out how to play on a 3rd and 4th line and play limited minutes. And, he's a big guy, a thick guy, physical, can be.
Definitely thick, yeah.
Yeah, can be. So
you figure a guy like that, when he's playing the way he wants to play, is very effective in the corners, winning puck battles.
You would think.
Go to the front of the net. Yeah.
So maybe he finds, good on him for getting back and getting a cup of coffee here in the National Hockey League. Maybe he sticks, but that's always an interesting observation when you see former Lightning players, particularly prospects, try and bounce around a little bit and how they performed with the Lightning. So Brendan Burke will be coming up here in a little bit.
TNT is meeting with Glenn Gulletson now, I'm presuming. Yep. So when they're done with the Dallas head coach, Brendan said he'd pop on by. His job with a team is with the Islanders. So, we'll talk to him about the league, but I'm very curious to hear, first about Matthew Schaefer, who has kind of taken the league by storm, and Matthew Darsh, who's the GM of the Islanders,
right.
Former AGM with the Lightning.
Pretty cool. All the way around. You want to get to some questions?
Yeah.
Let's go to I'm going to put you on the spot right away, partner. Thaw345, Dave Mishkin for the Foster Hewitt Award.
Yeah, well,
we love that.
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment. I'll answer it the same way. Like, that is not really on my radar, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Tampa Bay, DeStu being named the best D-man in multiple leagues, but being undrafted is pretty crazy. Yeah, it is. It's, especially in an era where you have so much scouting and so much film.
And just to be clear, he would have been drafted either before he won even the first award or potentially after he won the award in the queue. But all of the other subsequent awards would have been after he was eligible to be drafted. But he could have been signed. He could have been signed as a free agent.
That's the point. Yeah. And look, it could be a case where somebody's just a late bloomer. Maybe the offensive instincts, people wanted to see more of what he could do defensively. Maybe they, because to your point, a lot of those awards defensively go to the best offensive defenseman.
Yeah.
It just
and sometimes players, like, they face some headwind based on their size. Like, an offensive defenseman might be viewed as, quote unquote, undersized, and they're like, this isn't going to translate to the pro game. I mean, look, I stood next to Destu. He is not a small guy. So I don't know if he grew since his junior days, but I mean, there's no. Yeah. You look at him, and there's nothing obvious that would lead you to believe that he would have been dismissed, but he was.
Yeah,
he was passed over multiple times.
It just goes to show you. I mean, you stick with it and you believe in yourself, which he did, and you have an opportunity there to make it, and good for him, because that is a very, very cool story. And look, he's helping the Lightning. That's the other thing, too, that is getting lost. Chris says, good week so far for the Bolts. I agree with the comments yesterday that there isn't much to complain about. That said, the power play is starting to worry me as time creeps on and things still seem to not be clicking.
Yeah, the power play is quite different than Dallas's, where I said the Stars are over 30%. The Lightning come in at 14.3%, tied for 27th. That is a spot in the league standings where the Lightning are not accustomed to being, but it's still early enough, and there's a small enough sample size that those percentages can move up and down pretty quickly. I don't disagree, though. I mean, the power play has not really gotten in sync. They scored 2 power play goals in the first period of the first game, and it's been a little tough sledding since then. Having said that as well, though, Greg, the power play helped win them the game against Anaheim. So that was a very, very important conversion at the time that they got that goal.
Look, I wonder if there's more emphasis on the power play too, coming off of the comments that Kucherov made in the preseason. It seemed to be an interesting talking point. Hey, we need to be better when these games matter the most, and perhaps we came up short. Look, the other elephant in the room, and this is why I think some people were making the connection to a degree with Steven Stamkos, is that, have they really filled that void at all since he's departed? And again, it's not necessarily where they ranked, because they had a good power play from that perspective. It's more about maybe a constant threat on that side.
Yeah.
Do you think that is going to be harder for them to replace the longer this goes, and that they're going to have to find the adjustment, which, look, by their actions, they understand they couldn't just sit still and hope things got better. I mean, they were moving Kucherov around. They're trying different combinations. I actually think they do have some pieces there that make some sense. When you have that much talent, partner, I think eventually they will figure it out. The only thing I would say more from the power plays perspective would be more shots getting through from the point.
Yeah.
That's hard. Fair. And I get that's hard to do in today's NHL. But Victor Hedman's your Hall of Famer. Finding a way to use that slap shot or a quick wrister,
or
really whatever it is. Yeah.
They scored really on a power play in Washington.
Yeah.
Where Point tipped in a Hedman wrist shot.
I think he needs to be more impactful offensively. That's just my take on things, and I think him on the power play specifically would go a long way if you saw Heddy start to just go on a heater, so to speak, and he's 5 points in 7 games, and a couple were coming off of the power play. We haven't really seen it yet, you know, and we know he's got a really big shot. So that would be my answer to that question. So FKA says, how can the Lightning get out of this bad habit of overpassing?
Well, so, look, they won 3 in a row. They have won Stanley Cups playing the way that they play, and they do tend to look for the pass first sometimes. So it's not always a bad habit to make a pass instead of shoot. If there's a guy in your shooting lane, you do want to pass rather than try and blast it right into the guy who's going to block the shot.
Right.
I know this is simplifying it. And the general take of the question is correct. I mean, the Lightning are guilty sometimes of overpassing. When that happens, They have to have a course correction. But they're not going to go like if one end of some scale is dark blue and the other is bright red. where bright red is like shoot every single time and dark blue is pass every single time. The Lightning are always going to be kind of in the blue, right? They're not really a shoot first always team, but when they veer too far to the dark blue, they need to veer back toward the middle. I think you want a balance, right? But they're a playmaking team. You don't want to take the creativity out of creative players. So when they fall into a rut, and I will use that word, of overpassing, and I'll agree with that word, it doesn't mean that they have to completely change course and just shoot every single time. It just means pass a little bit less, like work in a balance. It's the run pass in football, right?
Yeah.
In a way. That's the way I look at it.
I think you're right. The Lightning, and especially as long as Kucherov is in the mix, you're going to be a team that passes probably a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Skilled teams typically do, partner. Not all the time, but skilled teams are the ones that are absolutely going to try and make the extra pass because they can.
Yeah.
A lot of times they can. But I think, we saw over the years, even when Steven Stamkos, it felt like he was passing up too much. Sometimes just kind of put your head down and let it rip. That's okay as well. I just think it's part of their DNA, and that's kind of who we are. The shooting for this guy, I want to see continue. Andrew says put Bjorkstrand in that bumper spot, and that may be, something they look to do more of. But I was encouraged. Was it last game or 2 games ago? I felt like he was more active in the slot and getting some opportunities where I think he can be effective. He's another guy. I don't think we've seen him get going. You know, I think Hedman and Bjorkstrand for sure are two players that they've got really good shots. That's the thing about it. Like Hedman, has he recorded the fastest slap shot so far this year?
He can blast it.
He can blast it. So I think him and Bjorkstrand, you know, in addition to what we saw a little bit with Hagel struggling, Kucherov not scoring as much up until recently, you wanted to see those guys going. So at some point, Bjorkstrand and Hedman, they're going to get back to where they've typically been. It just hasn't happened collectively for them.
So let me just say this. Yes, Bjorkstrand in the bumper is a weapon. He scored a power play goal last year for the Lightning from the bumper. He and Point, we've seen that they do switch, although Point has been more in the bumper and Bjorkstrand has been more at the left circle. Penalty kill units want to take away that Kucherov pass to the bumper, whether it's Point there or Bjorkstrand. They are keying on that. Depends on the kill. I mean, some kills are more aggressive, so they'll actually pressure Kucherov and try and force him into doing something that he doesn't want to do. Mm-hmm. Some penalty kills will be more selective, and they'll just focus on taking away that pass to the middle. Brendan Burke is here, so I'll try and be succinct as I answer the question. If the penalty kill units are going to really focus on that middle part of the ice, what I think will open that up is more plays to Gensel at the goal line extend, and this is when Kucherov is at the right circle.
Right.
Gensel at the goal line extend, and this is something Ryan Malone talked about when he did the broadcast with me on opening night. Gensel can have a path to the net. You have to make the penalty kill unit worry about other stuff. So you can have Gensel, you can have Hedman, which is what you talked about, shooting the puck, or you can try that cross-ice pass to the left circle. But it's almost like, again, using a football analogy, you know, they're stacking the line to protect against the run. How do you loosen that up? You throw the ball a little bit, right? So I think that using other options might open up the middle. But like Kucherov's trying to get it to Point in the bumper, and there's just too much traffic. If it reaches his stick, he has no opportunity to shoot. There are too many defending players in the way. Brendan's here, so let's do a little do-si-do switch cameras. We're looking at that one.
Perfect,
Brendan.
Perfect.
You're the
How you
TV
doing, Brendan?
expert, not me, but you know what to do.
expert.
Well, let's
thank
get
you
into
for joining us. Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
No, I was going to say, we appreciate you coming on, Brendan, and getting into the game tonight. I mean, we were talking, Mish and I, before, Lightning and Stars, you always feel like, at least over the last handful of years, two teams that, well, maybe not Stanley Cup favorites, these are two teams that have been pretty good and a pretty good track record getting to the playoffs. And, you know, who knows, every once in a while being able to make a deep run in the playoffs because they nice combination of veterans and some younger players, don't they?
Yeah, and from a TV perspective, entertaining hockey, right? I mean, I think both teams, we get excited when we see either Tampa or Dallas on our schedule, and to get them both in the same game, a lot of fun. Dallas obviously not as healthy as everybody would like them to be, not Tampa Bay Lightning, perhaps, but certainly it's always fun to get these teams that come crunch time, post-trade deadline, into the playoffs, are going to be teams we're still talking about.
This is clearly not your first rodeo doing national games. You've done it for several years, but I'm just wondering, how heavy of a lift is it when your focus is on your team, the Islanders, but then, you're parachuting in, and playoffs may be a little bit different where there's a series, but you're parachuting in and you might be like, oh, I'm doing Utah and Anaheim on this Thursday, and I haven't seen either team. Does it get, in a way, old in a good way, like you're used to it, or is it always a little bit of a heavy lift?
The beginning of the year is a heavy lift. I think the first time I see a team, regardless of whether it's an Islanders opponent or a national game, is always a heavy lift for me to try and wrap my brain around changes they made during the offseason. One of the big points, what has happened in the first 10 games of the season in our game here tonight, things like that. It's always a heavy lift of I have a template that I build and I have to update all my stuff, and it's like, oh boy, and now I've gotten, 5 teams this week that I haven't seen yet this season. That's a heavy lift. Once we get them deeper into the year and it's just minor tweaks of guys, oh, this guy's hurt, this guy's called up, whatever it is. But when you get those initial teams the first time, it's a lot of work. So like this week I had a Tuesday I was in Boston, Islanders, Bruins, here on a Thursday night, and then tomorrow I've got Islanders and Caps in D.C., so, and then Sunday at home against Columbus. So, you just start to line them up, and it just depends on the week of how much time you have to devote to each one of those games. It's a lot.
We were talking, Brendan, about just initial thoughts, and I know you're diving deep into this. It feels like maybe the West could be a little bit deeper, and at the East, it feels like it's a little more wide open, because you've got some teams, the old guards are kind of falling a little bit, and some newer teams like the Canadians trying to knock on that door, the Devils, and it feels like the East is a little bit more wide open. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it almost has the feel of the West is, if you were going to take the elite teams from the East and the elite teams from the West, you might give the advantage to the West. If you're going to take the bottom teams from the East and the bottom teams from the West, it might be advantage East, right? So you've got these, the Montreals are coming up, and the Ottawas are coming up, and Detroits are coming up. Tough year to be in the Atlantic Division. Having said that, I think everybody wrote off the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're off to a good start. There are teams that are rising ahead. So, but at the same time, you've got Utah up and Anaheim up in the West. I love the beginning of the season, right? And what's real and what's not, I don't know. Maybe we were just talking to Glenn Gulletson, who I think had a great comparison. He said nothing mimics the first round of the playoffs better than the first 10 games of the regular season. That's good. Because everybody's jacked up to play. Everybody has an opportunity to win Stanley Cup. But at the end of the day, when we get to game 20, that U.S. Thanksgiving benchmark, like what's real and what's not. And I think everyone wants to jump to the conclusion already. I think we're probably still in let's see what's real and what's not. Was the Lightning start real? I think everybody's like, well, at some point they're going to kick it into gear, and boom, here they are. So I think that a lot of teams are still, can they sustain it is a question for a lot, and are they going to be able to climb out of their hole is also a question for a lot of teams.
The Stars, I think correctly so, are viewed as a legit cup contender, and you can make the argument that based on how they looked after 2 rounds last year, maybe they should have gotten to the final. Maybe they would have won the Stanley Cup. They didn't. They made the coaching change. What did you make of that? And from somebody who looks at the league as a whole, and are they in a better position now, in your opinion, than they were?
It was a surprise for sure. I think Pete DeBoer has such a reputation and had done such a good job with that Dallas team. You thought, okay, well, they didn't win the Stanley Cup, but they've been in the conference final 3 years in a row, and they are knocking at the door. So why change? Obviously, the way the end of the season happened with the whole Ottinger thing, how much that played into, obviously, I think certainly had a part to it. But the question is always, for me, if you're going to fire a head coach, do you have something better, right? Like the idea is to get better. Did you get a better coach than Pete DeBoer? And I think it's an interesting choice with Glenn Gulletson, obviously with the history he has with the organization. I remember I was in Peoria in the American Hockey League when they hired him to be the Texas Stars head coach in the AHL, right? And this would have been 2010, whenever the Stars came into the league. He was in the ECHL in Las Vegas before that, so it's been a long time. But he's a guy who just coached 7 years in Edmonton with 5 different head coaches, which is, that might be a record.
That's staying power.
Right. I asked him, I said, how do you do that, right? Like, he goes, I hide under my desk when the axe starts to fall.
We were wondering about this. Did he run their power play? Because in the notes, it's kind of like, well, Glenn Gulletson with the Edmonton power play. Did he run their power play? Because if he ran their power play, that would be a good reason to, like, let's keep this guy around. Right. That power play is pretty good.
Yeah, well, I think Connor McDavid ran their power play.
A collaboration, at the very least.
But, I think it'll be interesting. I think we'll see how it plays out. But obviously the surprise is there. We'll see what Glenn Gulletson can do with this team. Obviously, he's missing some big pieces right now. But it's a long year, and we're just getting started.
Brendan, from our perspective, it feels like the Lightning have more options this year from the depth player perspective. Maybe not like we've seen the last couple of years where they've maybe coincidentally have been knocked out in the first round. What do you make of some of those younger players and talking to John Cooper? And then you've been around sports a long time. John Cooper's staying power being at one place in a long time, and that's just unheard of in today's sports.
Yeah, one of my favorite notes is that the head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning when Glenn Gulletson was hired the first time by Dallas was John Cooper. I mean, that's how long he's been here, is that Glenn Gulletson's come all the way back around for Dallas. Coop is a remarkable person. I think you guys know just as well as I do how wonderful he is to the media and how welcoming he is and how much he's willing to talk. And not even about hockey. We just spent a half hour with him. I'm not sure how much we can use on the broadcast tonight from what we got from him. But he's always willing to share and willing to talk. And I think he's a fantastic coach. He's the person that you would point to say coaching is not all about X's and O's. There's a whole nother side to it, the personal side of it. Just the person that he is, I think that goes a long way in the success that the Lightning have had, and also goes a long way to the reason why he's still the head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning. His relationships with players, his relationships with the coaches that work for him, and how many of those coaches have gone on to other spots, the relationship with the media and the front office. I mean, it's a personal business, and I think he's mastered that part of it. And so why change? And unless you're going to completely fall off the map and you get the sense that he's lost the room, which I don't think anyone's ever suggested that since he's gotten here, there's no reason to change. But it's quite remarkable what he's done and what he is doing in terms of being able to put down some roots in a he's hired to be fired type of job. One of the other notes that we have too is every single team in the league has had 3 head coaches since he's been hired. 3, not 2, 3. So it's quite remarkable.
We need a stat team like that, Greg. And Steve is like, I'm doing all the heavy lifting. I'm one person. What has it been like to cover Matthew Schaefer so far this year?
A lot of fun. He's we always say he's an 18-year-old kid, and I always feel the need to say he turned 18 in September. He's almost a 17-year-old kid that has come into the National Hockey League, and I thought we had already seen the best skaters we will ever see in this game, right? It's the McDavid comes in and you go, boy, there's nobody that's going to ever be able to skate. I'm not saying he's Connor McDavid. I'm just saying the way he skates makes other guys that you think are elite skaters, they're not on the same level. He can skate like very few people I've ever seen skate.
Now, let me just interject. Yeah. Is that flat out speed? Is it quickness? Is it like maneuverability, like the Braden Point juke, which McDavid also has? Like, what about the skating allows you to compare him to McDavid? Yeah. How is it similar to what McDavid does? How is it maybe a little different?
It's all of it. I mean, obviously him doing it from the back end is different. I think he has the ability to take off that 0 to 60 speed where, we had a play the other night where 9 times out of 10, it's just a simple D-to-D pass behind the net. And he looked at his D partner behind the net, and he's on the near side, and he goes like this, and he just curls and shoots straight up the ice. And he's at the far blue line of the puck before anybody realized he didn't pass it to his D-man. Like, it's just, he has the ability to just take off with the puck. And then because of that burst of speed he can do from basically a standstill, you think you've got him pinned at the blue line, right? He's a D-man, so he's playing at that point. And you're like, okay, he's either got to leave the zone or give up the puck. And somehow he's on his way to the net, and you're going, where'd he go? But it's just a smooth, effortless stride. He hits 22 miles an hour regularly during the game, and he can do it with the puck and without. And on top of that, from a defenseman perspective, he can play defense. I mean, we haven't really talked. No one's enamored with his defense, but he can play defense. He's playing defense, and at the same time, he just has that ability to never be out of position and always think, can I go here? And make the right choice. He's playing with Scott Mayfield, who told us in training camp, because I've had to realize that when I go to make the pass across, he's not here, he's there. He's always going that way and always wants to make it a four-man rush, and that's what the NHL has become, is you have to have a four-man rush, and the Islanders have not had a defenseman like that to make them that type of team, and with one draft pick, he's turned them into that team.
You know, it used to be, and this is my last question, Brendan, we appreciate you coming on. The NHL, you know, you'd have to go down to the AHL and spend some time down there, but we are starting to see more and more young kids come up here, and it probably speaks to the growth of hockey. Everybody's got a skills coach. Everybody's putting that in time into youth hockey, but we are starting to see a lot of younger players who spend very little time in the AHL come up and really make an impact.
Yeah, salary cap has to do with that too, I think, obviously. But they can hang, and I think, you know, just to use Matthew Shaper as an example, he started training camp, and the question was, will he make the team? That was, at least before he got on the ice, will he make the team? And then we went from will he make the team to will he win the Calder in like an hour, which is wild. And not everybody's like that. I think, you know, tonight he's going to play his 10th game, and it was like, well, maybe he'll play 9 games and they'll send him back to Erie. And it's like, well, if he has a 9-game point streak in 9 games, you're still going to send him back to the Ontario Hockey League. But you get that test of those 9 games to see if you can hang. And I think I love that you have that ability to take these teenagers and say, okay, play in regular season games, and then we can make our decision, because there's only so much you can get off development camp and rookie camp and training camp. But play in real games, see if you can do it, see if it makes sense. And more, there are guys that go, it makes no sense to send them back. Now, personally, I would love to see a rule change that would allow players to go to the American Hockey League.
Yeah, aren't they implementing that into next year's CBA? I think one underage, what I call underage.
Yeah, teenager.
Junior eligible. Yeah. It doesn't have to be NHL or junior hockey. There, one player each team is allowed to send to the A.
It makes too much sense. Like, you know, the Islanders had Noah Dobson a few years ago, and he had won back-to-back Memorial Cups, and he was 19 years old. And it didn't really make sense to keep him in the NHL, but it made zero sense to send him back. What would have been great was go play 25 minutes a night in the American Hockey League, quarterback the power play, but the team didn't have the ability to do that. And I think that's the last piece of the teenage puzzle. You're seeing maybe more guys play in the NHL as teenagers because the alternative of putting them back in junior hockey, where they don't have eyes on them all the time, they don't have the training regimen, they don't have, you know, strength coaches working with them.
Of course,
if they can get the AHL piece figured out a little bit better, I think you'll see maybe less teenagers playing in the NHL, but you'll get more prepared 20 and 21-year-olds when they do get here. That's just my thought.
Makes a lot of sense. Brandon, have a great call tonight. We'll see you at the rink here in a little bit, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for popping into our humble abode.
Happy to do it. My first time here. I'm happy to do it.
Well, you get a watch. No, I'm just kidding.
Checks in the mail.
I told him,
you get a watch. You get a watch.
I can't pay you with anything except my undying gratitude. He's like, that's all I need.
That's it. That's all I need.
Brandon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. All right, you got it, bud. Appreciate it. That was great. Love having the national guys come on and also doing the games for the Islanders, which is fantastic, getting a little bit of that scouting report. Matt says, what about Hedman in Stamkos' old spot and have 2D, 3 forward for the power play?
Well, you'd rather have a righty in Stamkos' old spot.
That's not going to work with how
I mean, they tried Radish there a little bit last year. It would just be a different look. Yeah, there are a lot of things you can do. I think what we know of Jeff Halpern, because he's run the power play as long as he's been an assistant coach with the Lightning, which is several years, the righty-lefty, and it's not just him, a lot of teams are this way, the righty-lefty configuration matters.
Yep.
You want to set up as many players for one-timers as possible. So it would not make sense to put Hedman. You'd rather have Hedman in the middle of the ice. I think. I agree with you, Greg. I mean, going back to the power play conversation, him shooting more and getting the shot to the net more, and then utilizing the Gensel option, where Gensel is either facilitating something else happening or taking himself to the net from the goal line extended, will force the penalty kill unit to loosen up a little bit in that bumper area. Right now, it's very, very hard for Braden Point to get a shot off.
Well, the other thing, too, is you have to be realistic in what your options are. And two realistic options that are still in play are Hedman shooting more and Bjorkstrand figuring it out. That can actually happen. Like, I'm not drawing up some fantasy and saying, why don't you put Destu in the bumper? And, it's like, no.
Cooch has to be able to get that pass across to Bjorkstrand as well. And if they're clogging the middle, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's done it sometimes. He did it. Which game was it? The goalie made a nice save. It might have been the Vegas game where I remember seeing an angle where Kucherov had a little bit of an opening. He got it across to Bjorkstrand. Bjorkstrand drilled it. I mean, it was a very nice shot. And I think it was the Vegas game where Lindbaum made a save, one of his many saves that night. He was
really good.
But that, again, if the middle is being clogged, it prevents, if you're the penalty kill unit, the bumper guy from getting the puck, but also potentially the guy on the opposite side from getting the puck, unless you go around the horn, which is also, something that can be done. But they haven't really exploited enough other options, I think. And that is one reason why the power play is sitting at tied for 27th or whatever it is. The other part of it is, there have been times where they've had trouble breaking into the offensive zone. There have been other times where they lose the face-off, and the puck goes down the ice and kills some time. So it's not just one thing.
Here's an interesting question. I don't know if we have an answer. Which one are you more concerned about, the power play right now or the face-offs? I think the power play eventually they've got more options there.
Yeah.
Your face-off guys, that's who you are, and you just have to hope there is some improvement with what they have to do, which is why I think that might be something they've got to look at a little closer to address, and we'll see how that plays out. By the way, Finley, I don't know when he's going to get in. I mean, honestly, the way this is all playing out.
Well, you have extra players. I mean, the Lightning are not carrying only 21. Technically, they're carrying 22 with Crozier. I don't actually know if they've activated him. But
and it's not like he's
got to
wait
his turn. He's got to put his time in. Yeah, I mean, this is the way it is for most teams.
Let's go to Anthony. He says, Point and Hedman need to hold the puck more on the power play. Cooch should be ready for one-time passes or shot. Gensel and Bjorkstrand need to switch when puck is on the left side.
So when the puck is on the left side and Kucherov is not on the left side, they do rotate. I mean, unless Anthony's seeing something I'm not. And certainly, when Kuch is on the left side, that's usually when Cirelli is on the unit. Cirelli is in the bumper, and they have Point as a righty available on that other side, the goal line extended to the right of the goalie, left side of the ice as the Lightning are attacking. So, look, they make adjustments on it. Kucherov will shoot the one-timer. I mean, he will. Maybe it's just that they haven't had enough time in the offensive zone where they've had a chance to set up and set it up. But I feel like we haven't seen a lot of Kucherov shooting one-timers. We haven't seen a lot of Point in the bumper getting a shot off. We haven't seen a lot of Bjorkstrand taking one-timers from the left circle. We have seen Hedman shoot, but often, unfortunately, the shot misses the net. When it hasn't missed the net, I think usually good things are happening. Goalie has to make a save, or the Lightning got that goal from Point in Washington where he tipped it in. So we'll just say it's a work in progress. I'm not sure that they need to totally reinvent the wheel, though, on the setup. I'll use this word again, execution. I mean, it may be that the setup is fine. It's just executing and, looking to take a shot when you have it.
Sure. Anthony also says Hedman needs to find lanes when the goalie is screened and risk pucks. Only use one-timer when it's 15-plus feet closer to the zone. He needs to watch Makar tape. Yeah, I mean, easier said than done. But I think we all would agree he's got to get shots through, whether that's slap shot, whether that's the wrister. We can debate that, partner. But I think he understands that as well. I mean, it's not like we're saying anything that's out of control. From FP on X, from the ECHL perspective, we often see guys leave for Europe because of money. I don't know why AHL Colorado didn't see more in his production. He scored another 18 goals in the playoffs. Wow.
Yeah, it's a mystery even to him. I mean, he said that after his final year or his year in Sweden, he got this award. He said, I called my agent and was like, what's it going to take?
Yeah, you score 18 goals in the playoffs.
But that was in the ECHL.
Yeah, but still, though, right? I mean, you should at least,
Look, if he continues to do what he has done for the Lightning, there are going to be 31 other teams that are like, we could have had this guy at any point over the last several years. Unclear if he got more than one offer this offseason. The Lightning signed him in May, though, so they signed him fairly early. I mean, it wasn't like you don't have to wait for free agency. Yeah. The guy was available to be signed whenever, right? So they grabbed him in May. That's when they announced the signing. Maybe they were the only suitor. Maybe there were a couple of teams that were interested, and he'd pick the Lightning. Unknown. But it is curious, I'll use that word, that not more teams grabbed him, even AHL teams, for an AHL contract where he would have played. I mean, some guys get AHL contracts and they're still in the ECHL, but their loss is the Lightning's gain at this point.
I think that's the right way to look at it, for sure. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us tonight, or today, I should say. Tonight we've got the game, Lightning and Stars. We will be on the air at 6:30 with the pregame. Yeah. And at 7 o'clock, you will be with Phil.
Kucherov ceremony at 7 o'clock.
Yes, we will have that.
So be in your seats. I heard Steve's daily strike. Steve be in your seats at 7 o'clock.
So we'll make sure we have it to you guys, and we'll carry it, right? I mean, that'll be fun.
And tomorrow, I think we talked about going live. There's no departure day tomorrow.
We got to go live tomorrow.
Leaving Saturday. Yeah.
Live is good, and we'll have a game to recap and get ready for tough little trip coming up.
Tough trip.
We can kind of
Utah. I mean, again, like Brendan was saying, quoting Golitzin, the first 10 games are kind of like the first round of the playoffs.
That's a good point.
Like everything is just helter-skelter, and you get some unpredictable or at least unexpected results sometimes in the first 10 games. But Utah, I think they had won 7 or 8 in a row or something like that. They lost their last game in Edmonton. So they've gotten off to a good start, as has Colorado and as has Vegas. I know Vegas lost the 2 games to the Panthers and Lightning, but other than that, they've been terrific this year. So it'll be a challenging trip. And this game tonight is challenging as well. So tough stretch for the Lightning. Let's see how they do. Good thing that they're playing better heading into the stretch, too, though.
Of course.
That you feel like if they flex their muscles, they might make their opponent uncomfortable rather than the other way around.
I will see you in a few hours, partner.
See you in a few.
Yep. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks to Brandon for coming on. Thanks to Steve Versnick for producing, and Jared Johnson as well. And everybody who listened, we always appreciate you guys. We'll be with you again tomorrow, noon to 1. I am Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.